After 20 years of building together through dust, deadlines, and damn good ideas, Pace and Adam invite you to join them for honest conversations about the home building world. Welcome to Build Connected, where experience meets insight, powered by Diamond Home Restoration.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Build Connected. I'm Pace.
I'm Adam.
Good to have you back in here. Adam, anything fun happened over the weekend?
Oh, nice of you to ask. Thank you. Wow. He
Take
cares,
on
everybody.
take on any new responsibilities in your life?
Well, no, I wouldn't say new responsibilities, just you know, owning up to my current responsibilities. A lot of soccer. My youngest daughter's on a traveling soccer team, so we drive all over God's creation to get her to these games, which I enjoy the games. Super fun to watch, but a lot of
I
driving.
I thought you were the new varsity head coach of the lacrosse team.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Settle down. It's not official yet. I have accepted the position, but it doesn't become official until it goes through a couple of different these and that's and whatever kind of things. But yeah, well, it's looking good. Very excited. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair
Thank
enough.
you.
Okay. Well, last week we had Nate on. It was a lot of fun having a guest. I think that next month we're planning to do something special for Fire Prevention Month here in California. So stay tuned for that. Um, we
Mhm.
we should have another fun visitor.
Yeah, it's fun having the guests on. This is a good time. It's a good
Yeah.
time.
All right, get into it, my man. Get into it.
Yeah, okay, let's jump right into our products. This product that I'm going to discuss, it kind of intertwines with allowance items that we always have on our estimates, and this is shower glass. You know, as a contractor, when we do our estimates, there are some line items that are allowance items, and these are items that are not yet chosen by the architect or the homeowner. And we need to put a price to this just so that we can create some sort of expectation for the clients. And so when it comes to something like shower glass, we have to make some assumptions, and it can be tricky. This is, one example of lots of options, but we always kind of go for the middle of the road assumption on something like this. So if you're out there and you're doing a new bathroom and you're deciding between frameless glass panels. So the first thing for your shower glass would be your basic kind of standard glass. And that glass, generally you're talking about a 3/8 inch thick piece of glass, and it has a green hue to it. You wouldn't really notice it so much unless you look at the side profile of the glass. You'll see a bit of a green hue. And you really want to think about using that glass as opposed to stepping it up to a more expensive glass, which is kind of known as crystal glass, crystal clear. It has less iron in it, doesn't have that green hue. You want to think about this depending on what tile you end up choosing. If you have a very light colored tile, perhaps it's white or a light gray. When you go with that standard glass, sometimes you can pick up on that green hue a little bit, and it might make you want to move more into that crystal world. But you're paying quite a bit more. I'm not going to get into pricing again on this because it's different for every market, but it's quite a step up from when you go to that into that low iron crystal glass as opposed to that standard glass.
Can I just put a pin in that for one sec? And I mean, you kind of mentioned this, but most of the world, you're talking about like our typical remodel when you're talking about like frameless showers. Most of the world is using like a shower curtain, and that's totally fine. And I think the next step up from that would be like a shower door kit that you could buy at Home Depot or whatnot. So we're
Mm,
specifically talking about a custom shower enclosure.
thank you. Yeah, this is your custom cut glass that gets typically mounted on a couple of clips to the wall. But yeah, thank you for clarifying, Pace. Now that I've lost my train of thought, let me back up for a second. So we've talked about your standard glass. We've talked about bumping that up to your low iron crystal glass. Now you can even get into the world where you have additional options where you can do special coatings on your glass. And these kind of coatings will help with water spots, water staining, and they are really, really great. when we when I did my house, I remodeled my bathroom, and the shower glass company that we used, he decided to throw it in for free just because he stands by this additional thing that they can do to the glass to help with the spotting, because he believes in it so much that he says, if I give it to my contractor for free, he's going to realize how great it is. And he's right. We try to pitch it on every project because it mitigates water standing big time. So it's an option, but my point is lots of options out there, lots of options to choose from, and each one really increases the price quite a bit. So you just want to think about these when you're looking at glass. Maybe you want to ask your contractor, because sometimes they just might make the assumption that you're just going to want a standard glass, and when it goes in and you see that green hue against your white tile, you may not like that. And if you knew that there was an option for a low iron glass, that might have been something you'd choose.
Yeah, one other option I'd throw in there would be like, what we call art glass. And that could be a texture of some sort, whether it be like a sandblasted privacy glass or, something like we call a rain pattern, or we try to say what we're pricing. And then, once we get a little closer to the actual install, we're usually going through our binder and looking at different options with our homeowner, and saying what the impact of those selections are on our allowance that we've provided.
Yeah. And the name of that application is called Diamond Fusion, if you are curious for what that coating's called to help with the spotting. But, and then it keeps going, right? Different colors of hardware and such. And you can dive deeper and deeper. But yeah, that about
Nice.
sums it for that. Let's move out of the product world and into Pace's world. What do you got
Well,
for it?
it's interesting. What I'm going to talk about today is related. It's allowance related. On every single one of our estimates, we have a line for special inspections or inspections in general. And it's an allowance because we have, and this may not resonate with everybody across the country, but here in California, we have special inspections we have to perform. And this is in addition with our local jurisdiction, whether it's the city or the county inspector, who's looking at things like our framing and our plumbing and our electrical. These are items that are called out on our plans that are more, if I go back 20 years, they're more engineering related. So, for instance, if we were pouring a foundation on a project, we would have a special inspector come and do various tests on the concrete that we are using on the job. And every concrete truck that rolled up, we would do those tests on the concrete in that truck. Over the years, that grew. There were more requirements for special inspections. Um, just like the concrete, we used to do special inspections for any welding we did on steel. And then it turned into observations. So things like when we would drill into an existing foundation and put threaded rod, we would now have to have an inspector stand there and watch us do that. If we were compacting soil, oftentimes we have to have an inspector stand there and visually watch us do that part of the process. So it became more and more difficult for us to accurately capture what the cost of our special inspectors would be. If you were to put on top of that, we talked about Cal Green and Title 24. We have inspections we have to do for those requirements as well. So if I just run down a list of inspections we're doing on our projects, we have our city inspector who's coming out and inspecting the various trades. We have more engineering related type special inspections. So our engineer certainly has to come out and sign off on what he sees on site. And then there's a third party organization that's looking at the same things the engineer did and signing off on our job card. Then there are additional third party inspectors who are coming out and looking at the various energy regulations. Um, and each of those people are charging money for their visits to the job site. And that's, as a contractor, it's difficult. Adam talked about like a physical allowance that we're doing, the shower door. the glass that goes into that shower door. But this is multiple third-party companies coming in and charging for the amount of time that they spend on our job site. And it's a lot more difficult for us to say what that number is going to be at the front end of the project. Um, Anything that comes to mind there, Adam, for you and the various people coming on site?
No, I mean, it's important to differentiate, like you did, that these are different inspectors that are outsourced, not provided by the city. But yeah, it's hard to pinpoint what to make that allowance amount because these inspections are billed uh, based on time and based on testing. So, for us in our estimates, we typically will have a line item that talks about permits and permit fees. And, it's just as simple as homeowner to pay any special inspection fee, any permit fee, that sort of thing. But, I just encountered something today, which I'll talk about as we move into something interesting on a project where I had a conversation with our client about expectations for costs regarding special inspections, which we'll get into.
Yeah, I mean that's why this came up, and I thought it was a good thing to talk about. Just you know, there's a question I think that maybe should be asked as well, which is just, do we really need five different people coming in and inspecting the work? I'm certainly not suggesting that we are against inspections, right? Like, I think that that is a great check in the system. But there is a legitimate question to ask about, can you have too many inspections? And I think the answer is obviously yes. Uh, I think that we've crossed a line here in California. I think that there's at least one too many layers. That being said, I understand that our city inspector already has a lot on his plate. There's a lot to look at on a job. So, um, you know, can they be overloaded by what they're looking at? I think the answer there is yes too. I don't have an answer to this question, but I think that it's a good conversation to have. And, one reason to have it is just the transparency. So homeowners can understand what they need to pay for. I think just that on its own is a worthwhile discussion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it would help all of us. I mean, I think as contractors, we're always looking to do better. What can we do to do things better and make things make more sense for our clients and that sort of thing? And I think that even we need to do a better job of kind of pinpointing that dollar figure because every dollar counts, when there's a budget in mind, right? And if you have an estimate that you've provided to a homeowner, sure, there are some expectations for change orders and things that might come up that are unforeseen, but I think a lot of times they don't see that cost coming for these special inspections. And if it's a big project and there's four, five, six special inspections, that could add an extra $10,000 to your job, and that's a lot of money to not have accounted for.
I think that's it. I think that the thing that we need to do better is just really spelling out what it could mean dollar wise, so people can plan accordingly. So, yeah, there's definitely responsibility on our end, and on top of that, there's the discussion of have we gone a little bit too far in the building world? Double checking and not trusting that contractors are doing things right. I mean, I know why these things have happened. But at some point, you have to believe that your professionals are doing the job as advertised.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so let's roll right into that interesting thing on a project. It relates to this talk.
Yeah, it sure does. I'm gonna kind of discuss something different, and then we'll kind of roll back into this and how it relates. But we're on a large project right now, and we have completed probably 95% of the demo, almost all of the demo. We have uncovered all of the bad that we thought we would uncover, and you know there's there's a lot of rot that we found on this project. We knew there was going to be a bunch based on what we were seeing before the project began, but I think we've uncovered maybe a little more than we would have thought. We came across a couple of structural beams that were rotten. We approached the homeowner with this, and we let them know that this is a change order and these things were unforeseen. And now that they've been uncovered, we're going to have to deal with them. So they asked a reasonable question, which was, can we expect anything else to uncover? And the truth is, we did tell them that we have a little bit left to uncover, and you never know what we're going to find. And certainly, as we went further down the road to demo, we did uncover some additional dry rot, and it's tough. It's another change order, but they understood why, and we went through the existing conditions, and it has to be dealt with. We had to chase it and get that repaired. But then the conversation then shifted to an invoice that they had received from an engineering company. They weren't sure what it was. We have submitted invoices to them where we had some fees for special inspections, and they wanted to make sure that they weren't paying double. So after further review, it was deemed that that invoice was actually from the company that comes to inspect for the drilling the piers. This is just it. This is one of those things where it frustrates the homeowner, and I understand why. As a homeowner, you should be frustrated because you're getting invoices for special inspections that you really didn't know much about. As a contractor, it's tough for us to pinpoint that allowance amount, like Pace had said earlier, right? I mean, there's so many different special inspections happening. There's different costs, and each inspection is, $2,000, $3,000. And again, in our estimates, we have, this cost is to be paid for by the homeowner, but we don't have a specific cost because it's constantly fluctuating. And I'll say it's frustrating for me as a contractor because this is outside of our scope. I feel, and you might feel differently out there if you're listening, as an engineer, this should be on your plate. I feel that an engineer needs to do a better job of providing the information that goes into special inspections and at least a ballpark of what these costs are. I feel that it throws us under the bus a little bit when we have to provide these additional change orders for these costs. Again, like we try to be as open as we can before the project starts that these are coming down the pipe, but we're talking thousands of dollars.
It's more than that, right? Like I totally agree with you that eh, I mean, if you could count the times that a homeowner has said to us, I have no idea how much more I'm going to pay my architect, or I have no idea how much more I'm going to pay my engineer, right? We hear it virtually on every job, right? So I think that we go into our projects with the understanding that we are going to do as best we can to provide what that finished cost is going to be, um, in our contract with the homeowner. And it feels like everybody should have the same responsibility. But on top of that, at the end of the project, let's say that this has only happened a couple times in my career, but we didn't do a special inspection. Theoretically, we are on the hook in order to get our job signed off. We're on the hook to make that right. So imagine you've poured a concrete foundation and you didn't test one of the concrete trucks. Technically, the city has the right to say, how do we know that concrete is good? Take that concrete out, redo it, right? Like if you're signed on as the engineer, not only should you be providing a price, but you should be part of the process knowing that the project hasn't gotten to the end without you doing your portion of it. Like if I pick on one of these Title 24 inspectors, they only arrive if they're called on. They have no integrated role in a project. And that just seems wrong because it puts all of the responsibility on us.
Now,
We are guessing at their price. We are making sure that they are on site to make sure we can complete our project properly.
Now let me be clear. We're not poo-pooing the engineers, and I don't think I know it sounds like we're nitpicking or we're picking at the engineers. That is not what we're doing. We love our engineer that we work with. We have several engineers that we work with. This is about us coming up with ways to do better, to be better. And this is an observation. This is something we've experienced that it's a recommendation, right? Like, what can we all do better in our trades to help the client? I think it would be better if an engineer could take the time to identify these additional costs and put that in their contract. That's all.
Agreed. I think it's a very important thing that should change. All right. Well, that was a lot. We got into the weeds a little bit on this episode. Sorry about that, but we hope that it's a useful conversation. Um, I don't know. Let's call it a day. I'm Pace.
And I'm Adam.
See ya.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Build Connected. For more stories, insights, and ideas, visit diamondhomerestoration.com or find us on Instagram and LinkedIn. We'll be back next week. We hope you will too.